What the Feminism is a well researched podcast which sheds light on intersectional feminism in India. Though recommended for everyone, it is largely aimed at South Asian audiences. If anyone is hurt by any feminist comment made in this podcast, we advise you to get checked for a possible condition of misogyny, misandry, homophobia, or something of that sort. Our socials are always open for suggestions or messages. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of What the Feminism. I hope you guys are well and safe. This is probably the last episode of this season, and so I thought of taking a very different route. Today we'll be talking about the movement itself. If you remember our first episode, we had discussed the four waves of feminism. Every wave brought something new to the philosophy, and the movement evolved. But with the coming of internet, mass media and technology, things have changed. And so did the movement. In this episode, we'll have a cute little discussion on feminism and how it is going in recent times. So, without any further ado, let's get started. First, let's rewind to 2020. You're in the middle of one of the largest Black Lives Matter protests in American history. Not just America, this movement has been getting support from world leaders, celebrities, and people across the globe. It's got a huge media following and it's getting talked about throughout the internet. Now, compare this to the 2020 Roe v. Wade protests. When the Roe v. Wade draft decision was leaked, which would strike down the most important single judicial decision in recent American history for women, the number of protesters were only in the thousands. In contrast to this, only a few years ago, we saw the massive march of women with an estimated 3 to 5.5 million people protesting Trump's misogyny across the US. A big difference, isn't it? I feel that mainstream feminism is definitely at its brink now. In the last 20 years, the movement has been commercialized to such an extent that the real philosophy and idea has lost its meaning somewhere between the lines. It's being used as a bait by celebrities, companies, and even governments, but when it actually comes down to real activism, the impact is considerably less. For example, a company which promotes gender equality in its advertisements may not actually put that in practice, or celebrities may only use feminism for branding and the government for votes. Another way the movement has been losing track is because it's being monetized so much. Let's take a look at those pastel colored Instagram posts for a second. You must have seen pages full of quote unquote aesthetic posts which have feminist or solidarity or her choice or something like that written on them. There is usually no explanation under these posts, and it feels like it's merely for the sake of aesthetics. I'm not saying that all pages are like these. Yes, the internet has helped in the propagation of the movement, but it has also kind of depleted the theory to a very basic sense. Other types of monetization may include tote bags, t shirts, or hoodies. Again, I'm not saying that these things are inherently wrong. I'm just asking if the people who sell or brand these things really follow the ideals of feminism? And is this the best way to make an impact? Moreover, a lot of young people actually don't call themselves feminist. This is because there are so many stereotypes attached to the term. For instance, meme culture or creators who call themselves alpha males propagate some of these prejudices against the movement. So you have terms like feminazi or pseudo feminist, which discredit and degrade feminism's meaning to a large extent. These creators don't know what the movement stands for, and they don't allow room for discussion. They associate feminism with man hating, lesbianism, or lack of femininity, which is a key factor in rejections of the label feminist. Not only this, but such a shallow and condensed version of the movement turns a blind eye to intersectional feminism and political situations of third world countries. Now, all this was about liberal, white feminism practiced in countries like the US. But what about other countries? Now, there's an interesting contrast. Although there is a rise in right wing governments across the world, feminism has seen a rise in developing nations. India itself got to witness some major feminist moments. One of these were when nuns staged a walkout against a priest delivering an anti Muslim speech. These were the same nuns who had earlier led a historic protest in 2018 in support of a survivor nun in a rape case. And as a result, Bishop Franco was arrested after 3 days of interrogation. Although, as of now, the accused is acquitted, and I think he has resumed his pastoral duties. Of course, even in the army, we got to see women in action. Yeah, as per the August 2020 judgment by the court, all women short service commissions officers who cross 60% threshold in their assessment subject and fulfill the medical criteria are qualified for the permanent commission. More than 72 women officers approached the court against the Army's decision of finding them ineligible for the PC despite crossing the 60% assessment mark as prescribed in a judgment by the court last year. The court ordered the Army to reconsider its decision and grant PC to eligible women officers in accordance with the new evaluation criteria. The Army granted PC to 11 women officers who had appealed to the top court, and also to other women officers who met the criteria, even though they did not approach the court. In India, caste and religion are important conversations in the feminist movement, and we do see an increase in this type of inclusive intersectional feminism. There's a lot of work to be done in the practical sense, especially when the political atmosphere is not very supportive of the movement. But still, feminism is growing. Even in our neighboring countries like Pakistan, we get to see this similar kind of upward slope. Women are leading rallies, breaking gender stereotypes, and redefining what religion means to them along the lines of feminism and equality. The largest agitation in recent years that I would like to mention would be the Iranian protests against their so called moral police. On September 16th, 22-year-old Kurdish woman Mahsa Jina Amini was arrested by the so called morality police in Tehran, Iran, for incorrectly wearing her hijab and allegedly beaten to death. 100 days after they began, the longest running anti government protests in Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution have shaken the regime, but at a heavy cost to the people. More than 500 protesters have been killed, according to the human rights activists' news agency. Two protesters have been executed, and at least 26 others face the same fate, after what Amnesty International calls sham trials. I really want to cover religion and feminism, but that's for another episode. For this episode, this is all we have today. This is the last episode of this season, and it will take us a while before we're back. So until then, stay safe. If you want to know more about the movement, I would suggest that you should read more books, articles, or journals. Make sure you follow our socials and make sure you check out the show notes for all the other links. We're going to be back very soon. So take care. Bye.